Hi everyone, I'm Marta Zampa from the Zurich University of Applied Sciences, and today I will introduce you to a study on discourse about nuclear energy by the Swiss Green Party and various Swiss media. This presentation is based on an ongoing study carried out within a course on discourse and corpus analysis in multilingual context, which we hold in our Master in Applied Linguistics. The subcorpus, as well as some results presented here, are taken from a paper written by my students Kerstin Nentchen and Gregor Steli. Our study focuses on the reaction of Switzerland to the core melting accident in Fukushima in March 2011. Swiss citizens were particularly shocked by the accident because the country owns 5 nuclear plants, among them the oldest operating plant in the world. As a reaction, the government launched the Energy Strategy 2050, which includes a gradual closure of the nuclear plants, a stop to building new plants, and a gradual transition to renewable energy sources. On November 16, 2012, the Swiss Green Party reacted with the Nuclear Withdrawal Initiative, which shared the same content as the governmental proposal in principle, but established a 45 years limit to the operational lives of the existing power stations. The government opposed the initiative because it would unnecessarily and dangerously accelerate withdrawal. In our research, we considered the language used by the Green Party to communicate about nuclear power and withdrawing from it, or better, to frame the issue. We furthermore want to find out if Swiss media replicate the Greens' frames when dealing with this topic, and if they do so differently in different languages or in different media, for example, in tabloids versus in quality press. But what is a frame? Frames are schemes of interpretation of reality that are part of the common ground knowledge of a community. Every choice of frame implies representing the world from a given perspective. Frames must be culturally shared to fulfill their communicative function, and they are activated in our brains by language. They confer meaning to facts by putting these facts in relation to our knowledge of the world, and therefore they function also if only some elements are mentioned. Indeed, frames are part of concept structures in our brain. Thanks to these structures, we understand public discourse because we interpret what is said overtly thanks to what we already know about the situation. This is all the more the case for complex issues like energy. Let's have a look at an example from our initiative, which in English is called For an Orderly Withdrawal from the Nuclear Energy Program. In German, withdrawal is called Ausstieg. The word Ausstieg, in its basic meaning, is used for exiting or getting off of a mean of transportation. Nuclear energy is thus framed as a dangerous mean of transportation. One should want to get off it and get into or transfer to a safer one. Indeed, the words Einstieg, getting into, and Umstieg, transferring to, are used for speaking about the transition to renewable energies. Similarly, in French, sortie indicates the exit of a means of transportation, but also of a building. On the contrary, in Italian, the word abbandono is used, which means abandonment. So, we can say that nuclear energy is framed as a bad habit. As for the corpus we work with, it is a huge online corpus started in 2016 and updated every 3 months. The sources are Swiss online media, universities and research institutes, public institutions and political parties, and companies in the energy sector. The data are in German, French, Italian, and English. And it contains more or less 458 million tokens, punctuation included, divided into 1,700,000 texts. It is used mainly for research projects, for example, the ongoing Energy Discourses in Switzerland, supported by the Swiss Federal Office of Energy. This case study is based on a subcorpus consisted of German and French language press releases by the Green Party on withdrawal from nuclear energy, on 2 French language newspapers, Tribune de Genève and Le Matin, and 2 German language newspapers, Der Bund and Der Blick. Der Bund and Tribune de Genève are regional quality papers, whereas Le Matin and Der Blick are tabloids. The corpus has been investigated from the quantitative viewpoint in order to find out the collocates of the keywords Ausstieg and sortie. First, the analysis was conducted in the press releases. Then, the correspondences of the results were checked in the newspapers. Then, frequency observations were made in comparison between the various parts of the subcorpus. On this slide, you can see some results. For the press releases, we see that in German, the most frequent collocates of Ausstieg were rasch, meaning quick, definitiv, final, and geordnet, orderly. In French, rapide, quick, and definitiv, final are also on top of the list. For the media articles, we see that rasch and geordnet are still there on the top in German, but also schrittweise, gradual. In French, we see that definitive and progressive were the most frequent, but also programmé and anticipé, early, speaking of stopping energy from nuclear power earlier than is planned. On the qualitative dimension, one can make observations on various issues, for example, on how framing plays a role in the action undertaken by the Green Party. Here, we see that the decision to launch an initiative is justified also as a change of framing that must take place in public opinion. In the German press release about the decision to propose a popular federal initiative on nuclear withdrawal from March 18, 2011, nuclear power is framed as inhuman and extremely dangerous, in German menschenverachtend und hochgradig gefährlich. And the Green Party offers an efficient and ecological alternative in renewable energies. In the press release on the effective launch of the initiative on May 19, 2011, the party underlines that the change not only of energy sources but also of framing of nuclear power itself must take place. Indeed, the public positive's characterization of nuclear energy as a magical recipe is negated in face of the nuclear catastrophe and alternative energy sources as proposed as the real solution. To wrap it up, we can say that studying frames and how they are expressed in language is fundamental to understanding and shaping public discourse. This is all the more the case for topics like energy in general and nuclear energy and withdrawing from it, which involve everybody. And it is all the more the case in Switzerland, where citizens often have to vote on all sorts of issues and therefore need to really understand what these issues are. Finally, it is highly relevant to teach students this approach because if they are going to work as professionals in communication, they have to be aware of what and how they convey it. For further results, do not miss my presentation on July 25th in Rio de Janeiro. A ci brevi!